So it says, listen, you're feeling, when it comes to mortification, you're feeling humiliation or shame at the sight of the superior excellence of somebody else, right? They may be going hard in their gift. They may be doing what it is that God has called them to do. They may be really cultivating the gifts that God put in them. But why should that bring humiliation and shame to you, right? That means that it's speaking something to you that maybe you're not doing what it is that you're supposed to be doing, but you shouldn't be humiliated or shamed at somebody else's reputation, at somebody else's happiness, right? This is one Eat Up Monday. Hey, what's going on, family? You guys already know what day it is. It is the day after Sunday. Welcome to another Eat Up Mondays. Listen, if you have not subscribed to our YouTube channel, please do not forget to click the subscribe button before you leave. Also, before you leave, don't forget to like this video. If you have time, share the video. For one, it'll be a blessing to somebody else. And for two, it will help us with the YouTube algorithm. It will help us to share this video with more people. And if you're watching this on Facebook, listen, it works exactly the same. Like it, share it, and Facebook will see that, you liked it and shared it. So that must mean somebody else will like it and share it, and it will cause them to spread it out even more. So I want to say thank you guys for that in advance. It is truly appreciated. Now, listen, it's time to dig into this meal. I think this is going to be a meal that's going to be an encouragement to all of us. I think it's going to be nourishment to us. So listen, let me stop talking over it. You're hungry. I'm hungry. So without further ado, guys, let's dig in. This week, I want to talk about the dangers of being an envious person, right? Having envy down in your heart. And it's important that we have this conversation because sometimes that can be there and we not even know it. And when I said the word envy, I'm sure for some of you, another word pops up in your mind because a lot of times we always combine these two words together. We always use them in the same context, even though they are not the same, is the word jealousy. But here's something that you may not know, that jealousy and envy are two different words, right? They may share a couple of the same characteristics, but they are two totally different words. And before we hop into touching on what it is to be envious, I want to give you a definition of jealousy just to show you that, right? When we look at the definition of jealousy, listen to it. It says it involves a fear of losing something you already possess. So first and foremost, it says it involves a fear. And we know the scriptures is very clear that, love cast out, a perfect love casts out fear, right? Fear has no place in love. So if we are tied to God, then there should be no fear there because God is love, right? But it says it involves a fear of losing something you already possess, such as a relationship or a possession to someone else. So it says that there's a fear there that whatever it is that you possess, the relationship that you have, that there's a fear that you're going to lose that to someone else. And if you ever look up the definition of jealousy, a lot of times another word will pop up with that, and that's rivalry. And that's what it's talking about there, right? Jealousy a lot of times deals with a rivalry, whether the rivalry is true, or whether it's just all in your head, right? But listen to what the definition goes on to say. Now, these are three characteristics that somebody that is a jealous person has. And this is how you can identify if that's you or someone else. It says it often involves feelings of insecurity, possessiveness, or suspicion. So if you are a jealous person or know someone that is jealous, these are the characteristics that you will see. And if these are characteristics that you may deal with, you want to be honest about that, right? Because you want to get to the root of it and say, why is it that I feel this way? Why do I feel jealous of this person? Is it something that's all in my head? And even if it's not all in my head, am I confident in who I am, right? To not be insecure, to not be trying to hold on, be possessive of something that may either walk away from me or be taken away from me. That just means that God has something else better for me, right? Or are you just suspicious for no reason, right? Are you just paranoid and just thinking that somebody's doing something that they're not? Because sometimes in relationships, that can ruin relationships when somebody is just jealous and they're constantly assuming. And a lot of times it may not even be the case. It can truly ruin a relationship. But that's the definition of jealousy. Now, when we hop into Proverbs 14 and 30, that's where our meal is going to come from. We're going to see that envy is a whole totally different thing from what we just laid out when it comes to jealousy, right? But if you got your Bibles with you, Proverbs 14 and 30 is what we're gonna use as our foundation scripture. And I'm already encouraged. Just going through that, the definition of jealousy is like, it's just enlightening. You know what I mean? But when we dig into this, it's gonna really open up even more. And it's going to clear the mirror off even more for us to look in it and see if we deal with any of these things, jealousy or envy, right? But Proverbs chapter 14 and verse 30, listen to what it says. It says, a sound heart is the life of the flesh. That word sound here means free from damage, injury, or decay. So it's basically saying a healthy heart is the life of the flesh, not a broken heart, not a damaged heart, right? It says that it is the life of the flesh, not a heart that's injured. It says, but envy, the rottenness of the bones. And we're going to break down the definition of envy. But it says that if you are envious, or if you have envy, or if you deal with envy, it is the rottenness of the bones. That means it is killing you from the inside, whether you know it or not, right? Well, listen to the definition of envy. It's to feel uneasiness, mortification, or discontent. Now, discontent is one of the characteristics that's also a part of jealousy, right? And this is almost one of the only characteristics that they really share. It may be a little, another one, a little something, something, but discontent is something that both of these words share. But let's break these words down, right? To feel uneasiness, mortification. Now, listen to the definition of mortification: a feeling of humiliation or shame, as through some injury to one's pride or self-respect. So it says mortification is when you are feeling humiliated or shame, or when your pride has been hurt, right? Or your self-respect has been hurt. Listen to what discontent is. And then this basically means not to be content. Listen to the definition of content: happy enough with what one has or is. So discontent is basically not being happy enough with what one has or is, not desiring something more or different, satisfied. Now, a lot of times when you hear the word content, people don't like to talk about it. Sometimes people don't even like to preach about it, because when we start talking about being satisfied, not desiring something more or different, people think that means you're putting a ceiling on your life, that you're saying, listen, I don't want anything else in life. I don't want to go higher in life. But that's not what content is talking about. Think about the beginning of the definition of content. It says happy enough with what one has or is. Now, we see this happen in the LGBT community, right? We see where you have people that say, listen, I was born a boy, but I really supposed to be a girl. I was born a girl. I really supposed to be a boy. We see this with people with their talents, right? God gave me the ability to put poems together or rap, but I really should have been a singer. God gave me this ability, but I should have really been that. So content is dealing with not being happy enough with what one has or is, how God made you. So when you start talking about content, it's talking about being happy with what God made you, or who he made you, and where you being you is going to take you, right? Because only you can be you. Nobody can be you, right? You're the only one that was created to do the things that you were made to do. So it's not a ceiling there. What it's saying is that I am happy with the path that God has placed me on. I'm happy with who God made me to be. I'm happy with the gifts that he gave me, and I'm going to use them to fulfill the purpose that he has for my life. But a lot of times when we talk about contentment, people always kind of they always kind of just combine it with dealing with possessions, right? It may have a little bit to do with that, because if you remember what Paul said, right? Philippians 4 and 11, and he was talking about, how they had an opportunity to take care of him, or they wanted to take care of him, but they didn't have the opportunity. And he starts talking about, not that I speak in the respect for want, not because I want your things. He went on to say in Philippians 4 and 11, he says, not that I speak in respect of want, For I have learned, listen to what he says, in whatsoever state I am, therewith to be content. And if you go back to Philippians chapter 4, he talked about being abased and being abound. He knows how to be content when he's high and when he's low, when he has or when he doesn't have. But what we have to understand about content, he says that I had to learn that, right? Like, so contentment is not an automatic thing, right? It just doesn't come naturally. You have to learn how to be content in whatever state you are, even when it comes to possessions, money, whatever have you. But by him saying that, I've learned when I was abased and abound, he's basically saying, listen, there's going to be some highs and lows in life, but there is no ceiling there, right? Whatever God has for you is for you, but he wants you to be striving for the thing that he has for you, not that he has for someone else or not that somebody else has. Amen. But that's what content deals with. So listen, we're going to go through this right now again, right? I just wanted to give you that definition of mortification and content. And please, I pray that I'm not speeding, but I'm getting excited. So I want to slow down. But it says to feel uneasiness. This is envy again. To feel uneasiness, mortification, or discontent. Here it is. At the sight of superior excellence, reputation, or happiness enjoyed by another. So it says, listen, you're feeling, when it comes to mortification, you're feeling humiliation or shame at the sight of the superior excellence of somebody else, right? They may be going hard in their gift. They may be doing what it is that God has called them to do. They may be really cultivating the gifts that God put in them. But why should that bring humiliation and shame to you, right? That means that it's speaking something to you that maybe you're not doing what it is that you're supposed to be doing, but you shouldn't be humiliated or shamed at somebody else's reputation, at somebody else's happiness, right? This is one part of being envy, right? And there's a problem there, because why would we feel humiliation or shame about what it is that another man is doing when God has given us the ability to do what it is that we are supposed to be doing, right? We got to make sure what we're seeing them do, that's making us feel humiliated and ashamed. And remember, mortification goes on to say injury to our pride or our self-respect. None of those things should be happening to us when we see somebody doing what it is that they're supposed to be doing. The one reason that may be bothering us is because we may not be doing what it is that we know that we should be doing, right? But what did it also say that can happen in there? It says to be discontent at the sight of superior excellence, reputation, or happiness enjoyed by another. And remember what we said content was: happy enough with what one has or is. Like, are you happy with what it is that you have and that who God has made you? And if you are not, then that is a problem. Like, you need to pray. You need to talk to the Lord. Like, listen, help me to be content with my life. Help me to be content with the purpose that you have given me. Everything that glitter is not gold. Everything that we see somebody else doing is not gold. We don't even know how they're doing that. We don't even know if they're supposed to be doing that. And that's why it's real dangerous to be harboring enviness in your heart, because when you're envious in your heart, these are the types of things that is going on the inside of you. But listen to what the definition of envy goes on to say. It says to repine at another's prosperity. That word repine means to complain. And if this is not the honest to God truth, then I don't know what is. How many times have we seen people on the internet in our personal lives talk about what somebody else have and their possessions, complain about what somebody else has, how they acquired it, how they got it, instead of focusing on what it is that they are supposed to be doing. But it says to repine at another's prosperity, to fret. Now, this is key. To fret or grieve oneself. Just imagine looking at what somebody else is doing and fretting and grieving your own self at the real or supposed superiority of another. So you don't even know if it's real or not, right? They may be just fronting for the internet. We don't even know if they really are the boss that they say they are. But yet here we are fretting and grieving over what it is that we see. This is why being envious is so dangerous, because it's something that's hidden down on the inside, right? A lot of times when somebody is either jealous or envious, right? You can't see that. right? Because it's something that is dealing with the inner. That's why it's a rottenness to the bones. And if these definitions, sound like you are in a super dangerous place, because that means that you're not seeing things the way God sees things, right? You're not looking at people or your own situation the way God looks at it. And that's why you're looking at what somebody else is doing, what they're driving, where they're living, because you don't have understanding that, listen, all things that glitter is not gold. We don't know if they stole that house. We don't know if they took the house and buried whoever owned the house in the down in the floor in the basement. We don't know what these people are doing, what they have, or how they getting it, or if they even maintaining it, about to lose it. This is why we have to be careful with that and have to be content with who we are and what God has made us, and ask God, how do I do the things that's going to fulfill my life? Because when we start doing our purpose, when we start doing what it is God has called us to do, that's what then begins to bring that peace, that joy, right? That harmony with God. A lot of times we're looking at the wrong things. We're focused on the wrong things. And if you are walking around with envy in your heart, it is going to eventually kill you, whether that's naturally or spiritually. It can kill you either way. And I'm sure you've heard stories of this. Or it can cause you to do something or kill somebody else. We see that all the time, where people hurt other people because of something that they have or that they thought they had, right? That they may not have. I just saw a story not too long ago where some young ladies set up this young man. They met him on the internet. I don't know what made him go meet somebody he don't know in some place that he's never been, but they set him up and killed him over a Rolex he was showing online and this and that. Come to find out, the Rolex was fake, right? Everything we see is, everything that glitter is not gold. Everything that glitter is not real, guys. And this is why you got to be careful with not having envy or jealousy in your heart. And you see the differences now, right? This is very important, man. I really wanted to talk about this because I see this type of stuff all the time. You see people angry and upset at somebody else's life. Man, live your life, right? Find contentment in your life. Find joy in your life. Find purpose in your life. And I guarantee then you'll be dealing with the problems that people was dealing when it came to you, right? Now you'll see people feeling a type of way about you and stuff like that. And you like, man, I'm just doing what it is I'm supposed to do. I'm not even doing nothing that deep. And this is why you got to be careful with this, because it will cause you to hurt someone else. But let's finish out this definition of envy. I'm going to go back to repine again. To repine at another's prosperity. To fret or grieve oneself. Imagine stressing yourself out at the real or supposed superiority of another. And to hate him on this account. And this is when things can get physical, things can get nasty, rumors can be spread, people get real crazy when they have envy down in their heart. And this is something to remember when it comes to this, that what's meant for you may not be meant for me. We don't know how people got the things they have. And I just was saying that. We may not work as hard as they have to achieve the things that they got, right? That may be one thing. Or the thing that they're flexing and showing, they may not have worked hard to get it. They may have stole it, right? They may have did something, illegal to get it, right? They may have conned somebody out of what it is that they have. So this is why you got to be careful not to just be led by your eyes and your appetite. You got to be led by the Spirit. You got to be led by prayer, right? And most importantly, you got to be led by His will so that you can fulfill your purpose. And really quickly, when I was thinking about this, it brought me back to, well, not recently, but this came to me like a while ago. Like there's times where God will bring me back to my childhood, because it's, a lot of times there's things that I've forgotten that happened when I was young, things that I did, so on and so forth. And God brought me back to a time I used to go to. I went to a school called Roosevelt School in Bridgeport, Connecticut. I went there from kindergarten to the 8th grade. And when we were in like the lower grades, kindergarten, first grade, we used to have this little area where our classroom was called, it was like a courtyard. So when we had recess, basically the door would be open, it's warm out, the door is open. When we had recess, you can see the kids outside playing for recess. Now, me, sometimes I would act up in class, first, second grade, little guy acting up. And sometimes I wouldn't be able to go out for recess. And I had forgot all about this. God brought this back to my remembrance. He like brought me there. And it's like I could almost feel the moment to where I got tears in my eyes as an adult, just reminiscing on what God was showing me. When I couldn't go outside, the desk would be like right here and you could literally look out the door. So you could lay on the desk. I would be laying on the desk looking outside and all the kids would be running by laughing and dancing and I would be crying. And it was twofold I was crying. One was I was so happy, and I'm like this to this day. Like I'm always happy to see somebody else having a good time. Like even when I'm driving, working, delivering, and I see people about to have a picnic or whatever, I get real excited for people, right? So as a child, this how I was. Like even though I was crying on one end, I was hurt that I couldn't go out and it was my own fault, but I was happy for them that was outside having a good time. Every time they run by the door giggling, it seemed like tears would flow even more. I had forgot all about this and God brought it back to my remembrance. But I'm the same way to this day. And why did I say all that? Listen, it's okay to be happy for somebody else, right? Is why be upset at what somebody else has or what it is that they're doing? Maybe that's not for you. Or maybe it is and it's not time. Or maybe it is and you're just not doing the things that's going to get you to the place to have what it is that they have, right? Whether that's a house, whether that's a car. But when it's all said and done, never be upset with what somebody else is doing and what they got. Be excited for them, right? And just focus on your own self. And that's one thing that I'm thankful of to this day that I never really had an issue with. Not listen to what I'm saying, not seeing something somebody has and said, man, I wouldn't mind having that car, or I like that truck right there. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about seeing what somebody has and be upset about it, right? Be like, oh, what they doing in that? Why they driving that? They shouldn't have that. I should be never that. And I'm thankful for that because that's just a terrible way to live, right? Because you just don't really know how a man got what he got. So if you walking around with envy in your heart, pray, ask God to help you to get it out of there. Repent, say, God, help me. Because listen, it can turn and be very dangerous. It can grow and cause you to do something real foul and real crazy. And we see it happen all the time. And what these people that do these things fail to realize is that, listen, all the potential that you saw them have and all the things that you saw them doing, you had the same thing. But the problem was you wasn't content with what it was that you had and who you are. Remember, envy is a hidden thing, right? We can't detect that on the outside. Jealousy is a hidden thing. A lot of times we can't detect that on the outside unless we see those three characteristics start to rear their ugly head. That insecurity, that possessiveness, and that suspicion, right? That always being suspicious and paranoid, like somebody doing something. We can see that, right? But a lot of times when it comes to being envious, a lot of times we can't see that. And unfortunately, you have some people that are that way, maybe even towards you, maybe even towards me, but let's not be like that towards them, right? But know that I love you guys. I know we went on for a little while with this meal, but this is something that is super important and that we have to really focus on and not be ignorant to because it will hinder us in life. But until the next time we share a beautiful spiritual meal together, guys, know that I love you guys and shalom.